Now, the amazing pens are supplied, the green ones by Four Leaves. We've got a short video to play from them. So, Jamie, if you can hit play, sir.
Four Leaves Property was founded to fill a gap in the market for specialised self-storage services. We sell self-storage facilities across Australia and New Zealand. We are licensed real estate agents, qualified valuers and data-driven advisors, and that's where the Four Leaves come in. So the Four Leaves represent 4 different disciplines. We've got transactions, valuations, advisory and capital and debt. And we practice solely in the self-storage space to help you get more from your assets.
That is Four Leaves. And of course, yesterday from Four Leaves, we had one of our speakers on stage talking all things. The pens are amazing. That is Four Leaves, transactions, valuations, advisory. Now, consumer insights. We had Evelina talking about how do we know what customers are thinking? How do we know what they're feeling? One of the things you'll see in the State of the Industry report is consumer insights. We're going to peel back the layers and go a little bit deeper on that. It is the CEO of the Self-Storage Association of Australasia. Make some noise, Michaela French-Castelli.
Sorry. Had to close the doors. Good morning, everybody. How are you all feeling? Fantastic. Excellent. Let's talk consumer insights. So, this is obviously part of our State of the Industry 2024 research report. And when we do this consumer study, we use the help of Accenture 555 to do a nationally representative study of Australians and New Zealanders. And when we say nationally representative, we mean that we look at their age, their demographics, their location, to make sure that we are really capturing everyone's views across Australia and New Zealand. And we ask more than 2,500 of them for their views on self-storage. So this morning I am going to share some of the insights and the views that they have told us about our wonderful sector and help you understand a little bit more how you can use them in your business. So let's start with who are our customers. I'm sure you all know your customers very well. Self-storage is a local business after all. But we can group them into some fairly common personas. We have our largest cohort here, and families and young couples make up around 55% of Aussies and Kiwis who are using self-storage. They are usually around the ages of 25 to 44, and really they need space for life's milestones and moments, as we saw yesterday. It's all about transitions for these guys. They need space for their growing families. They need storage as they're upgrading homes, they're renovating. They need space at home. Kids come with so much clutter, and they really need safety, accessibility, convenience, and they're also motivated by price. So they are one of our more price-conscious groups, and we all know that price is one of the most significant barriers to accessing storage in our market. They also tend to be really good tenants because they're a bit stickier. They have a longer length of tenure and stay with us, particularly once they really come to understand the benefits of storage and the space that gives them back into their lives. Our next group are our empty nesters and our baby boomers. And until yesterday, I probably would have said our downsizers, but I think Simon gave us some really interesting insights, and that maybe these cohort now are actually just making more space because their kids are actually still at home. They are over the age. Technically, our research says 45 plus, but I feel like that's young for this cohort. So I think we can bump that up a decade or two. But they also have lots of toys, right? So maybe they are thinking about taking a trip around Australia and doing the grey nomad thing in their caravan. Maybe some of them are out, like the Wilsons, on their boat, and they need somewhere to put their things whilst they're tripping around the world. They are also the cohort that are most likely to be using storage for sentimental reasons. So, and we know that when you're using storage for an emotional reason, maybe it's cherished items from family or heirlooms from parents that are no longer here, that these tenants become our longest staying customers. They are also motivated by safety, convenience, accessibility, reliability, and trust. It's really important for them, and they rely heavily on word of mouth and referrals. And then we come to the other end of the spectrum. Young professionals, 18 to 24. These guys make up about 15% of the self-storage customer cohort at the moment, and we know that these are going to be our future customers as well. And they need storage really to simplify their lives. They're moving around a lot more, quite often they're renting, but they're also our most likely cohort to maybe have a side hustle. Very entrepreneurial now. It's very common for young professionals to be running an online business as well as doing something professional. So storage is obviously the perfect solution for when you've outgrown perhaps your garage or your parents' garage and you need space for that growing business. So this is where we see plenty of future demand and growth. They are motivated by price, but the biggest motivator for them is how easy is it to get into storage? Is it digital? Is it seamless? Is it frictionless? So what else do we know about them now that we know who they are? We all know, having been in the sector, that it's moving and the need for space that continues to drive self-storage use. Household items and furniture have, for as long as I've been in this sector, and I'm sure many of you, always top the list of items in storage. In State of the Industry, we have lots of graphs and lots of charts that unpack this in much more detail. So if you're new to the sector, you can use that as a great starting point to get a really good understanding of what people are storing, why, and for how long. But here are some of the most compelling needs or reasons that people are using storage. 68% of people are using storage to remove clutter from their lives. And that's up again on 2022. Security, as we know, continues to be so important at 62%. And I think the one that interests me is this flexible length of stay. We all know that it's such a great feature and benefit of storage, so it's really great to see that that's actually now being reflected in the consumer insights that are coming back to us. Renovating, keeping all the toys, and downsizing follow shortly thereafter. But what do they know about us? Turns out they actually know quite a lot. 81% is the awareness level that we enjoy of self-storage across Australia and New Zealand. And this globally is quite high. I think certainly in the US, awareness is much higher, but we are probably a close second in that respect. Awareness is much lower in the UK and Europe, and much, much lower again in Asia. And we've enjoyed these high awareness levels for some years now, which is great to see. 32% of Aussies have used storage before. I think that's a really exciting stat, and I think it tells us that there's plenty of room to grow that number. And 9% of the Australian adult population is currently using storage right now. In New Zealand, the numbers are fairly consistent. So awareness sits around that same kind of 80% level, and that really hasn't changed over the past few years. Ever used, pretty similar, around 30%. And percentage of adults using storage, a little bit higher in New Zealand, at about 10%. Now, it turns out they know a few more things about us. And I think the next slides are always slides that interest a few people, particularly in this room. And there may be some numbers that people have been waiting on for quite some time. So when we do this research, we ask consumers, what brands do they know? What storage companies do they recognise? So we do this in a prompted and an unprompted way. So, the most recognised brands in Australia for 2024. We have Storage King that tops the charts and continues their reign at 66%, with Kennards following fairly closely behind at 57%. National comes next, around about 30%, and Taxi Box, our great mobile storage friends, at 18% brand awareness right across Australia. I think the interesting mover in this list for this year is Wilson Storage. They've jumped quite a few places, which follows their portfolio growth. So it's great to see that reflected in these numbers. Now, these are the top 5, but we actually count down to about the top 20 in most markets. So when you take a look at State of the Industry next week, you'll be able to go to the appendix and have a look state by state and understand what brand awareness looks like in your local market. Can't forget about our friends in New Zealand. Storage King continues its reign across the ditch as well at 65%, with National next in line at a very consistent 32 across Australia and New Zealand. Kennards follow behind, and then National Mini Storage 23%, and Kiwi just behind them at 22. So, what are our customers or our prospective customers looking for in their self-storage solutions? Consistent with data since, I would say, at least the early 2000s, they are looking for price, security, convenience, and a location that's near them. It's easy to access. They are also looking for support, and that support can come in a few different ways. And when we talk about support, we really mean finding the right unit size. It's the number one question people have about self-storage is, how do I know what unit size is right for me? And we have lots of different tools and techniques, and everyone, I'm sure, has their own different process. But we know that people have been using online tools with good success, but also picking up the phone still remains a really, really key channel for people to get this level of service and support that they're looking for. We also know, and the research tells us, and I think everyone has heard multiple times already over the past few days, that people are looking for this seamless storage experience. More than 90% of the consumers that we surveyed who are currently using storage browsed online before making their choice. 90%. So even if you are a more traditional facility when it comes to your marketing mix and you're relying on signage, drive-by, community engagement, word-of-mouth strategies, people might know that you are just down the road, but they are still picking up their device to find you before they make their final choice. Of this group, 30% looked at online reviews. So if that doesn't tell you how important that digital brand and your digital presence is becoming, because people are now transitioning to online for that word of mouth referral experience. So yes, they're asking family and friends, 27% of them are asking family and friends, but people are also more and more trusting of the reviews that they're finding online. Since 2020, online sign-ups have increased by more than 50%. And here is just a little look at the profile of customers who are booking online. I'm sure it probably comes as no surprise to many of you. 70% of them are aged between 18 and 29. Most of them are living in metro and capital city areas. 50% of them have kids at home. And just over 50% are earning more than $100,000 a year. And when it comes to booking online, 30% were done online, which is up 7% on 2022. So the trends that we've been talking about the past few days are now being reflected in the data, which is great to see. The other thing that is starting to change or emerge in some of this research is the way that people are using storage. I was really interested in Mike's comments this morning when he was talking about us much more as a lifestyle market than a transition market, which is more common in the US. So we know that around 70% of people are using storage for personal needs. That has pretty much been the number for as long as I've been in storage. But where we're seeing things start to change is in this business use case. So when we did this in 2022, we saw a 5% swing towards business storage uses. And what we're seeing now is this sort of mixing and blending and blurring of the lines between business and personal. So 16% of customers that we surveyed are using storage purely for business needs. But 11% and growing are using it for both. And I think for many people here, it's a pretty obvious sort of transition. The two needs states can be very interrelated, you know, in a post-pandemic world. For those working from home, all of a sudden, if you need space for your office, that was your spare bedroom, that's full of junk. It goes there, and maybe you're also running an online business, and so you're using it for your stock or inventory as well. So it's easy to see, but I think it's something that we haven't tracked previously, and I think this trend is set to continue. Something interesting too about these customers, and in the report we sort of break down personal, blended and business into some of the ways that they're using storage in terms of length of stay, pricing, rental behaviours, arrears, missed payments, some of those other behaviours. But this new sort of blended use case category stay the longest. They have the longest length of stay out of all of the categories that we measure. They have moderate rentals, so personal is usually on the lower end of the spectrum, business usually on the higher, and these guys sit squarely in the middle. But I think what's really interesting is they actually visit their unit the most. And that tells me that we have a great opportunity to make sure that their customer experience and their self-storage experience is excellent. Because we know that 9 in 10 customers who are using storage today are likely to use storage again in the next 2 years. So we really want to make sure that they have a great experience when they're here. When I do this, I always like to try and overlay the consumer data that we get with the data that all of our wonderful operators provide. So when we look at these numbers from an operator perspective and what you all tell us about your businesses, we get about a 70-30% split, which I'm not sure has changed much over the last decade. And sometimes I wonder whether you're all just guessing because that's what you've always known it to be, or whether you're actually tracking it. But it aligns reasonably well with the consumer data. But 11% of operators also reported an increase in customers this year who they know were using storage for personal and business reasons. So, how can we attract more of these customers? And for this section, I wanted to touch, instead of on your marketing strategies and your marketing mixes, which there have been a few sessions on already this week, I wanted to sort of get in the helicopter and go a little bit higher. Because the research presents, I think, some interesting opportunities from a category perspective in this case. This is our third State of the Industry research report in the current format. And since we started this in 2020, there has been this persistent amount of untapped demand. 10 to 15% of people who needed a storage solution in the last 2 years found an alternative. They didn't end up using self-storage, even though they considered it as part of their solution. So this tells me that we have some work to do as a category. If we know that there are more people out there, and this translates to some pretty sizable numbers when you look at it from a population perspective. In Australia, it heads into the millions. We have some work to do to unlock this latent demand, because we know there are more people out there that need storage. So how are we as a sector and a product, how are we going to overcome some of these barriers to unlocking more of this latent demand so that we can continue to see those usage numbers drive up? The other interesting trend that is emerging more and more in our research is really around this new opportunity for some of these alternative models. Now, a lot of these are addressing the core benefits, and you can see here, this is a bit of a complex slide, but it'll be easier to understand in the report. We see self-storage on the left, my left, and that's the traditional category, right? We know all about that. People want familiarity, security, access, all the benefits we know and love. But container storage and mobile storage are addressing some of the other barriers that people tell us as to why they're not using traditional storage. They're addressing some of those core benefits, but at a more manageable price point in some instances, or in a more easy to use and convenient way for customers in others. I think a really interesting way to start thinking about this is perhaps some comparisons to airlines. And this is really only possible to sort of start thinking this way now because of the growth and breadth of our sector, which I think is also really, really exciting. But I think many of you probably caught a plane. Did you catch a plane to get here? And some of you would have absolutely flown economy. You're happy with the budget model. You knew that you probably weren't going to get a meal. Happy with that. Didn't need any extra service. Didn't need the bells and whistles. Just needed a very functional solution. And we have plenty of storage facilities who offer that very functional solution. Some of you probably flew business class. You wanted more comfort, convenience, extra service. And so I think we are starting to see some of these shifts in the market as well. It's not dissimilar to how we were looking at remote management yesterday in terms of full service, assisted service, and self-service. So we're starting to see this stratification a little bit more. We have, first and second generation self-storage facilities, many, ranch-style regional options that may sit more towards the value end of the spectrum compared to our new 5, 6, 7 plus beautiful, big, shiny self-storage facilities. And consumer perceptions, when you're comparing those two, as a consumer who perhaps is new to storage, you can't help but start to make some assumptions about what that might look like. So I think this is just starting to emerge for us as a category, and that's very natural as categories start to grow. So we'll be tracking this over the next few years, and I'll be really interested to see where it goes. More good news. I feel like we've delivered you a lot already this week. But 8 in 10 customers are satisfied, or more than satisfied, with their self-storage experience, with 9 in 10 set to return. We know that today's customers are our customers of tomorrow. 7 out of 10 want a 100% fully digital solution. That is their expectation. We then asked those same customers, was that your experience in self-storage? Only 30% of them came back and said, yes, I had the digital tools that I wanted to be able to use to book my unit. So I think as an industry, our expectations are here, but we are really lagging in delivering some of those consumer expectations. And Simon really touched on that too, that the service that we get everywhere, we really expect in every category. Storage is no exception. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. State of the industry has more than 100 pages at this point, and plenty of it is these consumer insights that you can start to unpack for your business. But as if we haven't had enough good news this week, I have even more. For the first time, we are putting the power of our consumer research and insights straight into your hands. We are going to give you the ability to drill down into all of these data sets so that you can understand the consumer insights that are relevant to your local region. I'm thrilled to launch our new Consumer Insights dashboard. You'll find this dashboard available in the member portal. It is under the Data and Research tab. I just can't stress how much information you all now have access to in the member portal. So please, if you haven't logged in lately, make it your mission to do that when you're back in the office on Monday. Our dashboard is divided into 4 key sections: market overview, customer journey, your customer experience, and future storage use. Here is a little sneak peek. So there's a whole range of questions in there. There's a whole range of data sets, and you can filter by year. So you can look at it from 2020, 22, and now 24. And we've included the full-time series so that you can map some trends in your local area. And then you can also filter by location, by customer type. So you can split this by business or personal, and by storage mode too. So if you're a container operator or a mobile storage operator, we track data across all 3 categories, and you now have access to this. These types of insights are a marketer's dream. This is really high quality market research that's done at scale. And an investment like this is really beyond the scope of most storage facilities' marketing budgets. So I would really encourage you to make use of this dashboard, particularly when you're planning your marketing strategy for the year ahead. These, I guess, are the kind of benefits that your membership enables, and we thank you very much for that. But we also really encourage you to maximise the value of your membership, and please, please use the data, because there really is something for everyone in these tools. So once again, it's available on the member portal. You can log in now if you would like and take a look. That's all I have for you on Insights this morning. State of the Industry will be in your inboxes late next week, and I really hope you enjoy diving into all the data and insights as much as we have enjoyed preparing them for you. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Michaela. You can drill down into data sets. It's on the SSAA member portal, so log in and check it out. The power of data is absolutely amazing. My background is data and analytics, and I'll tell you, the numbers never, never, never lie. It is absolutely amazing. And remember, markets, customer journey, CX, and the future storage use. It is all there. It's in your SSAA portal. So please, please, please log in and, of course, reach out to the team with any questions, queries, comments, thoughts, or challenges you've got, and they will definitely help you.